Aaron, I'm out here at the coast. I'm at Newport.
Very nice. Is it beautiful over there too?
It's very nice today. It's pretty calm. Normally it's not. So you can see out this view out here is the ocean. So I'm quite
You're in a much
blessed.
more entertaining spot than me. I'm sitting in an office just right at I-5 and 217, but at least behind me I have some sunshine coming in, so that's a very nice change over
Yeah.
what seems like decades, but really over the last few months.
We've had just nothing but sideways rain, seems like, for just months.
Yeah.
And so, but we don't know what to do when it's nice weather out. So yeah.
So you got to run outside the house and take advantage of it.
Exactly.
It's so yeah, it's a nice change. I feel like, I was mentioning it earlier. It's just even the interactions. It's crazy how much you realize it affects people's moods. It's smiling faces. It's a more friendly tone out there.
Yeah.
Like there's so much that changes once we actually get into some nice weather.
Yeah, it's really kind of funny to me. Hey everyone, we're gonna get started in about. Hey everyone, excuse me, Aaron. Hey everyone, we're gonna get started in about 2 minutes or so. So let us know where you're logging in from. Okay, back to you, Aaron. What were you saying?
Yeah, I was just gonna say it just shows you that we as people really are affected a lot more than you think, when it comes to the weather stuff. When it's sucked in and gray, it's, you're tired, you're not as friendly, there's so much going on. And then, the sun comes out and it's not one person, it's like everyone just has a completely different outlook on life. So
yeah,
we are a part of our environments.
Yeah. Yeah, it's for us out here, especially, it's just been raining sideways for just literally months. And so it's nice to see sunshine and a little calmer seas. And so, yeah, it's quite nice. And it for me also, seeing all the birds coming out and all the wildlife and just coming out, and it's just super nice. So
yeah, it's fantastic. And man, it looks like we have people from all over everywhere.
Yeah.
Got Southern Oregon, we got Portland, we got Central Oregon. And by Portland, I mean the greater Portland area. We got the coast, like we've got everybody. I mean, we got the whole state covered. Good morning, everyone. We'll be jumping in here just a second. We've got quite a few still jumping on the call here, so we'll give them a little time to get settled.
Yeah, about 1 more minute, we'll take off. Okay, good morning, everyone. Hey, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for joining us today. We have a really exciting webinar about AI revolution. And today we're going to be hearing from Aaron Still, and he's the Vice President of Marketing Technology for WFG National Title. I'm really excited to learn more about this newest trend in AI and how ChatGPT could change our industry. As a reminder, if you're new to Oregon Realtor webinars, you must stay on for the full 50 minutes to receive CE. Your name in Zoom should be correct. Chat at Oregon Realtors if you're not sure. And you should also be logged in individually. Anyone watching in a group setting will not receive CE, as we will not have a digital record of your attendance. Feel free to say hello, tell us where you're coming in from, and your CE will be processed in 2 weeks, and we'll email you when it's available in your member portal. With that, I'm really excited to hand the show over to Aaron. Take it away, Aaron.
Thank you I appreciate it. Thank you so much, David. I am going to go ahead and share my screen here, and let's get this started. Okay, so this is something that clearly basically took the world by storm right around New Year's. It's something that's been around for a little while, but it wasn't something that was really in our space. It wasn't something that was widely adopted. And so, as a company, we're always trying to stay, somewhat, on the forefront of this or anything that's really coming down the pike. And I will say, when it first came out, I was thinking, okay, maybe this is just another one of those things people get excited about and, it's going to go away. And then we really, as a company and as a group, started diving in and realized that, no, this isn't something that's going to be going away. This is something that's going to be revolutionary to our industry. So just to give you guys a little bit of an idea as to who I am, you saw my face. This is me. I'm Aaron Stell. And the reason I like to show this is I'm lucky enough to be part of a team called the Nerds. And the Nerds are a bunch of other people like me who love marketing and technology and seeing the applications as to how it's going to work inside of real estate. So we all collaborated on this, and we were looking for practical uses. We were looking to see kind of what was going to happen with it. And it's been something where it's evolved so quickly that we had a presentation, or we actually had a large event here in Portland in February, where we did a pretty forward-looking, and we were kind of on the forefront as far as the presentation goes, and it's already completely outdated. So anytime that we're doing something with AI, and I'm going to kind of go through all of this, just know that it's something that we're constantly looking at, we're constantly playing with, and we're constantly trying to figure out, all right, where does this go next? And so I will be putting some of this stuff on both social and also my YouTube channel, which is How to Be Stellar. I have written some articles for Inman, but I probably will keep the stuff in-house at this point in time. I do know a couple of questions that always do come up, and we chatted about this earlier. One, I will be sharing the slides for you guys so you can have those. And then two, there will be a recording. So this webinar is being recorded right now. So I'm not sure if those questions were popping up yet, but both of those things will happen. All right, so let's dive into the content, because I know that's what you're actually here for, and just talk about what we're trying to accomplish today. So I'm going to walk you through the good, how it's going to help you, the bad, because there is some of that inside of AI, and then there's some scary. And so I'm going to walk you through all three parts, so you're just sort of aware of what's going on in this world, in this realm right now. But more importantly, what I want to do is I want to show you actual use cases, so practical ways that you can implement this today in your business. And then, the most important part of all of this is to take it within the context and realize that what this actually does is it makes you more important than ever. And I'm going to show you how that all really comes together. And it's going to kind of be a theme, throughout all of these different tools. So we talk about this as being a revolution. And when we say revolution, I want you to think of it in this context. If you've been in real estate for, any period of time, or even if you've just been kind of, in the working world, there have been three major revolutions at this point. And the first one was the internet. If you think about what real estate looked like, prior to the internet, it was, I've always had a great time looking at the old school RMLS books, where it was basically like this giant phone book of all of the different houses and things out there. From a value proposition standpoint, a lot of times before the internet, the realtor's value was actually holding on to those listings and be able to show people those listings. And it was more about the house. You think about how the internet has changed that, where now all of that information is everywhere. How to buy a house, where all the houses are. And every 15 minutes, it's getting updated on something, active, pending, sold. And so now your value proposition has shifted based on the internet to, it's more about the process. It's the client experience. It's a whole different kind of situation than it was before the internet. Then you move on to the next one, and you think about, what your life would be like now trying to sell real estate without your smartphone. You think about, 20 years ago, where you have a flip phone or you even had a pager and you were not accessible all the time. And if you had a question, you couldn't search, on your phone to look at listings or what's going on with that house down the street. And there's all of this information that is now constantly at your fingertips, which allows you to communicate better. It allows you to actually have more information about properties and the things that are going on with your houses and your listings. And it really has revolutionized how we actually interact as people. So having the smartphone once again completely changed everything we're doing, even down to the level of getting into lock boxes. That wasn't something your phone did. That was a separate key that you had to charge and get like basically reactivated on a nightly basis. Then the next one was social media. And the way that social media revolutionized real estate is you have to think about what it was like to stay in touch with your database prior to having these apps, and before Facebook and Instagram and YouTube. And, I see less in Twitter, but now TikTok coming on strong and Pinterest, you had to send out postcards. You had to constantly email people. You were picking up your phone and calling them. Now you can have your big database, and I'm saying big because it's not your 50 or 100 people. You can have thousands of people that you can keep in contact with without doing anything more than picking up your phone, flipping through your feed, seeing what's going on in their world. And then in addition to that, you can now push out your messaging to hundreds or thousands of people, without really having to make a lot of effort. And so it really has fundamentally changed the way that we go about business. So those are the first three revolutions that we have gone through so far. So we had the internet, the smartphone, getting into social media, and now we're on our fourth. And the fourth is going to be artificial intelligence. This is something that I mentioned earlier. This isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't something that's going away. And you're going to see a lot of documentation on why that is the case. But this is something that is different than anything else that has come, previously. And it's something different that is going to fundamentally change the way that we interact. And I'm going to kind of dive into what those things look like. And so if you ask, okay, what is artificial intelligence? Here is a definition. I'm not going to do all the reading, but really what it comes down to is it is machine learning. It's making a computer seem like a human. And more importantly, what that means is it's going to continue to learn and it's going to be interacting like a person would. So this can be everything from, the visual perception. It can see things, it can speak, it can decide. You can ask it a question, it can decide what you're actually asking for and then bring it back to you. And then of course, it can do it in all different languages. So basically what it is it's a machine brain that thinks and acts like a human, or that's the goal of it anyway. We're kind of on the forefront of this. So I know that's a little bit technical, and that was written by ChatGPT, by the way. So I asked it to write a third grade definition. So if you're trying to figure out like, all right, give that to me in very simple things. It's a computer brain that can learn and do things normally only people can do. It can play games, it understands what you're saying, it can make suggestions, and it's like having a smart robot that can make your life easier. So if you think about it from that standpoint, what we're really going to be using this for is it's going to be something that life part at the end is what we're looking for. How can it make your life easier? But the most important thing is, unlike previous things, like think about a chat bot, in the past, where it's like you get on there and it asks a question. And basically it's almost like a test where it's like, okay, do you want A, B, or C, as far as your options? And if you click B, then it can go, all right, well, here are some articles that might solve your problems. Instead of that, you can ask ChatGPT a question. It will actually understand what the question is, go out and find the information that will give you an answer. And so that's very much the difference, is it can actually understand nuance and things like that, instead of just being pre-programmed with, okay, here are the canned answers that you can get. All right. So, with that being said, let's talk about the use cases and what it can do. And this page could go on for days and days and days. But what it's really being used for is things like writing copy. That is kind of the primary way that we are seeing people, people use it currently. Believe me, I think this will expand a little bit on that. But writing your newsletters, writing blog posts, writing, your emails for you. There's so many things that it can write where you can get most of the way there, without actually having to do any work. But it will do things like creating images. It can write code for websites. It can give legal advice. It can give stock algorithms. And of course, the original use case, which was all the kids jumped on it early and used it to cheat, which is something I find funny, because this is transforming school at all levels, because education at all levels now is having to figure out, like, how do we actually test knowledge or give knowledge in this world of AI, which is pretty funny. Just as a quick little tangent, one of the things I didn't put on here was medical, and I'll kind of dive into some of the other stuff in a little bit. But I was reading an article the other day where they were able to predict someone would get cancer a year before they actually got cancer. They could look at all of these different systems and symptoms and things like that, and they could go through and say, yep, this person inside of a year will have cancer. So that is kind of the craziness, and why this here is a revolution that's going to change things, not just be another fun toy to write our newsletters or our emails. So when we look at why this also is such a huge deal, and this is already, becoming out of date also, is how quickly it got there. When we were talking about this in February, it was the fastest to 1 million. Well, just 2 months into this, ChatGPT is already up to 100 million users. And if you look at these other huge brands, I mean, these are gigantic companies, and how long it took them to get there, it shows you why it's something that you have to kind of stay on the forefront with, and why it's something that is rapidly evolving quicker than really anything we've ever seen. So ChatGPT was already at 100 million users in February, which is crazy. All right, so I always like to talk in context of, okay, we are going to focus on ChatGPT, but there are so many AI companies out there. This is an old slide with the AI 100 is what they call. These were the companies that were just coming out. But in March 23rd, the week of March 23rd, there were 100 AI apps released in that week. In 1 week, they wrote and deployed an additional 100. So that's kind of the scale to which this is moving. I mean, there are thousands of them out there. This isn't one or two or anything like that. There are thousands of these companies out there that are launching basically every single day. And so we'll get into how to follow that and see what they do, kind of how they work as we go on through this program. All right, so I do want to touch on kind of the main two. So the two big boys right now, as far as the ones that have the kind of most money behind them, that are going the fastest, that are trying to kind of change the world. One is Google Bard. And this is legitimately an email I got, I think 2 days ago from Google. And this is just one example of what they can do in regards to coding. So now basically Google Bard, which is they're kind of like, it's their competitor to OpenAI's ChatGPT, which is Microsoft based, or not based, but it's got a giant chunk of their money came from Microsoft. And so this is what Google's trying to do to fight it. And the way that I've seen Google work is, for example, I actually ran into a guy, this was about a week and a half ago, and he actually works with disabled veterans, and he wrote basically an app for an Android phone that will match up using Spotify. And the way that he did this is he basically went to Google Bard and says, I need an app that will work on my Android phone, that will play mellow music and pair it up with images to help people that are disabled have some sort of visual like place that they can sit there and have this environment that is relaxing for them. Inside of about 15 seconds, that was done by Google Bard, where before that would take days, weeks, months, and somebody would have to write all that code. Instead, it happens almost instantaneously. So the other competitor is we have ChatGPT, which is what we're going to mainly focus on with some other little nuances, that has already launched their 4th iteration. So GPT-4. And I wanted to kind of give you an idea when people talk about this, like ChatGPT or GPT-3, 3.5, 4, etc. What GPT-4 is, which just launched, is GPT-4 is going to be faster. It's going to be able to understand complex situations better than any of its predecessors. And what that really turns into, if we're kind of getting into the practical applications of this stuff, is it will understand more complex situations, it will understand more complex questions, and it will be able to more quickly get the answers back to you. And so that's really, where this is going, is it's almost an arms race of trying to get, this new technology out as quickly as possible. And it's getting more and more complex. It's going to get into deeper conversations, and it's going to be harder and harder to figure out, was that a person talking to me, or was that a chat bot, or was that a bot talking to me, which is kind of where we dive into the next part. So I'm going to start out with the bad and kind of give you an idea of things that can happen, inside of the realm of ChatGPT. So, there was an open letter that came out, and this was about 2 weeks ago now. And it was written by a college professor out of Montreal, but it was signed by literally hundreds of tech titans. And we're talking about like the CEO of PayPal. We're talking about Elon Musk. We're talking about, CEOs of that level that are very, very in tune with what's going on in this realm. And what they said is, look, we're moving too fast with this thing. We need to take a pause. We need to create some parameters around this. We need to stop training this, because there are issues that are arising and we're not sure where they're going to lead. And so, when you have people of that level bringing out an open letter saying, like, we need to pause this stuff, I'm going to stop and take a little time and be like, okay, what are they talking about? And so, when they talked about GPT-4, they're saying, okay, here's some of the issues that we're running into. Some of them are trivial, but it's making logical mistakes. And this is the one that actually scares me a little bit. If you look at it, it says it sometimes hallucinates incorrect information. So, what does that mean? I don't know, exactly what hallucinates means, but it's basically going through and it's finding things that are not right and it does not exist. One of the huge things inside of real estate is it betrays ingrained societal biases. So it's not necessarily like, it doesn't understand equal opportunity laws. So it can say things that are hateful. It can say things that are harmful. It can do things that are absolutely not okay inside of the realm of real estate. So, if I'm going to give you one piece of advice, and I'm going to reiterate this throughout the whole talk here, is no matter what you do when you're using ChatGPT, and there are going to be some legit uses for it, you always want to make sure that you are double checking. It's going to get you 80% there, but don't just grab something and put it out without verifying it, without reading it, without making sure that you're covering both yourself and your, brokerage with, the potential for really getting yourself in trouble. I mean, you can say things, or it will say things that are absolutely not okay inside of the realm of real estate. So that's really where the saying hateful things comes in. The other thing that it said is it's moving at a dangerous pace. So, the thing, if you talk about, say, for example, back in the day, Apple, Microsoft, a lot of these tech companies had the mantra, move fast and break things. And when you have two juggernauts like Microsoft and Google trying to win the race in AI, they're going to go so fast that they're going to miss pieces. And with that is AI kind of is a general piece of hardware or a piece of software. It learns. One of the things we talked about earlier is that this is a brain and it's learning. So if it's grabbing all these things and we're not reining it in and actually making sure that it understands some societal kind of norms and ways that we interact, the scary part is that it's going to learn all this stuff and it's going to go in a very negative or very bad direction. And when they say something like, it could be an existential threat to society or even humanity with no plan to totally mitigate these risks, like that's kind of scary. That's the kind of stuff where it's like, okay, what exactly does that mean? And so, we need to make sure, and what they're trying to accomplish is just to slow it down, build a framework. So at the end of the day, we don't actually have the Terminator coming after us when we're fighting our own computers and just trying to survive. And so that's one of the big things that people have been scared about, is like, if this goes too fast and learns the wrong things, and that becomes what's entrenched in its, computer brain, that could go a very bad direction. And there's another thing that we like to look at. So this is the ChatGPT screen. If you had ever logged on previously, there's a couple of things in here that are important. If you look at the limitations over to the right, it may put incorrect information out there. It may do harmful instructions or biased content. So it may do, once again, things that absolutely don't line up with equal housing opportunity. And then the other thing that is important, and this is something I kind of want to put out there and pause on for a second, is that because it's at this point in time, having to learn from both the inputs that we are giving it, but also stuff that's openly out on the internet and things like that, it can't really look forward. So what it's doing is it can go to where we're at today, right this second, and it can look back at all of the information that's out there. And so it will be able to find those things, but it doesn't really have knowledge of, super recent events. It doesn't have knowledge of things moving forward. This is a backward looking, not a forward looking predictor at this point in time. So if you're looking for it to, kind of predict the future, that's not really where this is. So it's not going to be, at least at this point, something moving forward. And the way that I like to look at that, and the way that I will kind of explain it is, some of the stock trading apps and things like that, what it will do is it will look back at all of these different cycles that have gone through, and it will say, okay, based on all of the cycles we've seen, you should buy here and sell here, and it will give you those metrics. That's where we're at now, looking back. What it can't tell you is, okay, in 2 months, based on the trends, you should buy this stock or sell this stock. And so that's kind of the difference. And I hope that kind of makes sense is in regards to kind of the world that we're looking at. All right. Then there's the scary. And this is the stuff that kind of keeps me up at night and horrifies me a little bit. And there's things where it's like fraudsters. You think about, the phishing emails you get. You think about the ways that people are trying to, in our world, basically steal your client's money, and wire fraud is a huge thing. Well, think about how easy it now is for somebody to write a very professional sounding email, or even in a different tone, in any language. I mean, I know, I'm about a 3-year-old when it comes to my Spanish, but outside of that, I know no other languages. However, using ChatGPT, I could write an email, say, translate this to Mandarin, translate this to, whatever, French, Spanish, like go down your list, and I could immediately have a properly written email in any language. And so what we're seeing is criminals are now using this in far more sophisticated scams to get employees, both get employees and in their business. And it's not just writing that, it can answer back. If you reply back, it can be like, oh, based on this response, here's what you should say back. So there's ways that it can actually create fraud or talk to you and scam people out of both money, time, and get into organizations where it can become a huge problem. And you look at things like, so there's a company out there called 11 Labs, and I've actually, we tested it and played with it for a little bit. And what 11 Labs does is if it can get 45 seconds of you talking, anybody talking, it can now recreate your voice, and I can type in anything I want you to say, which to me, that's scary. And I had my friend, Justin Tucker, who is works for our parent company. He's our director of strategic growth. And he went through and did it. And then we were able to type out things we wanted him to say. And it sounded so close. I had no idea that it was not him. If it would have been a phone call, I would have had no idea that it wasn't him saying these things to me, which leads to something that actually just happened in the real world. There was a AI that cloned this girl's voice, and she was actually out on a ski trip, so she wasn't at home. They called her mom in Arizona, and this was just April 12th, so this is not, a long time ago or something outdated. And they basically pulled hey, we've got your daughter, you need to send us $1 million. And so, of course, this mother was freaking out because she's like, oh my gosh, somebody's kidnapped my daughter. What's going on? This daughter was at a ski trip, so she didn't have her phone or she wasn't answering. And it turned into this whole big thing. Eventually, they called the police. They were able to track down her daughter, and they're like, no, mom, I'm fine. I'm on my ski trip. This is great. But literally, this is the type of things that can happen. So like, we've heard of the scams of, you're on a trip to whatever, we'll say Mexico, and somebody calls and says, hey, we have this person, send us $5,000 in Bitcoin or we're going to kill them or we're going to do something. This type of technology is just going to make that even easier. And so scams and fraud are the places that really scare me the most. Now, on the other side of this, the part that makes me happy is that we have a lot of these really high-end technical security companies that are using AI to basically detect scams even faster. So it's this kind of battle between the bad guys and the good guys, all trying to go through and use AI to weed out the scary stuff that's going to happen. Okay, so we've focused on the negative. I showed you some of the scary, and that's really, in my case, kind of the worst case scenario. Let's dive into what's actually good about this. I don't want to sit there and freak you out and make you think, okay, this is not something that's going to be good for any of us, because it actually is going to be something that is fantastic for you. So if we look at the good, the number one thing that AI should be able to do for you is give you time back. And what you do with that time can be, it can be hanging out with friends or family. It can be going on vacations. It can be, you're spending more time with your clients. There's all these different ways that this can give you time back in your day. And you can use that time to really do anything you want. And where your time really comes back is this can allow you to focus and decide, all right, am I a right brain person or am I a left brain person? And if it's something where, you are very proficient on one side, but not the other, you can focus on the things that you do that you're good at, and you can use AI to do a lot of the work that's on the other side. So really what that means is you can sit there and spend time in your day working on things that are your strengths and allow AI to actually take over and do a lot of the stuff that are your weaknesses. And as we all probably understand, there's two things that happen in our weaknesses. One, we usually don't do them as well and they take us longer. And two, if it's something we really don't like and it's really hard for us, that's the thing we kick down the road over and over and over. And so it eats up a lot of our day just thinking about this thing that we have to do because it's not something we're overly proficient in. So allowing you to actually stay more in your strengths instead of having to, to focus and power through these weaknesses. No, let AI take over that stuff. And so what this really does is it allows for scalability, and if you think in the real estate space, you think about how much time and energy you put into every single one of your clients, you're only going to be able to work with so many unless you start picking up, you start creating a team, or you have people taking on other responsibilities, or you have somebody else doing the work for you. And what this can do is it can actually make it to where, you're not going to have to spend as much energy on every single person that you work with. And so scalability is a big thing. It can allow you to spend more time with your clients and have more clients without actually putting in that additional effort. And so that's a really big part of this. And this is the thing I think that is most important, is it allows you to spend more time face to face. And when I went through our objectives and we talked about, okay, what is the main thing that this is going to do for you? This is it. AI is going to be able to do a lot of tasks. It's going to be able to help you scale your business. What it can't do is build relationships. And that's where you come in. And this has always been a relationship world. Real estate is a relationship business. Regardless of how you do it, you have to get face to face. And if you can get AI to take on some of the tasks and some of the things that are not what you are proficient at, or you can get them to do some of the busy work, now you can go and spend time with those clients. You can spend time with your family. You can spend time, out showing houses. You can spend time, on anything you want that develops these relationships. And that is the most important part about what we're trying to accomplish is, okay, get rid of the stuff that puts you behind a screen or behind a desk and keeps you away from your people. Use AI for that, and then get in front of your people. That's what this is really going to do, which makes you the star of everything. Okay, so let's dive in. This has been a lot of theory, kind of some background, some definitions, but let's talk about what this can actually look like. So let's show you this use case. And this was something that was developed by Justin Tucker, who I had mentioned earlier, for our WFG event in February. So what we decided is our boy Snoop Dogg came out and said, you know what? I hear being a real estate agent sounds way better than being a rapper. So I am going to start my own business, but I have no idea where to start. So he came out and he said, all right, WFG, what do I do in order to get started? And so we're like, okay, Snoop, we got you. So first thing we need to do is we need to come up with a logo. What are you going to do? Let's start with this brand. Let's figure out exactly who you're going to be as a real estate broker. So we go to Taylor Brands and we say, all right, we've got Snoop Dogg coming in. We need to figure out a logo that will represent him and who he is and be authentic to him. And this is an AI brand that, or an AI company that actually builds out branding materials. And so we type all our stuff in, we give it our prompts, and it spits out Doghouse Realty with the D-O-double-G, because that's what Snoop Dogg is. And we're like, well, that's cool. It's got the little house, it's got the bone. And we're like, this is great. This is very much, an indicator of who Snoop Dogg is. And so, when we go into, the logo, we're like, okay, well, that's pretty cool, but just a logo is not going to be enough. So like, we got to dive in a little deeper. And, the next thing we did is we're like, all right, let's create some marketing assets. You got to be able to have this on a shirt. You need to be able to have business cards. We need a website. We need to be able to put all these things together, and we need a social media campaign. So we're going to throw the Doghouse logo on story cover or the covers of all our social profiles. We're going to create, basically all of these templates that we can then use over and over and over on all of our stuff. So we have this cohesive brand that we're putting out there. And this is all done in a matter of seconds using Tailor Brands. But just having a logo and a cool social media presence and all that kind of stuff, that's not enough. So we went back with Snoop. We're like, all right, what's our next step? Like, what do we need to do to really get this thing launched properly? We're like, well, we need a tagline, and so this was written by ChatGPT. We said, all right, in the voice of Snoop Dogg, write a tagline for Doghouse Realty. And this is what it came back with: get your paws on the home of your dreams. So it falls in line with, all of the different things that we've already talked about. It's on brand because it's your paws, because it's a doghouse, and it falls in line with real estate. So, we're like, okay, that's a pretty cool tagline, but, we're still not quite to a full branding package. So let's create a mission statement. So our goal is to provide safe, comfortable home for every pup out there and help them find their place in the world. We're not just talking about selling houses. We're talking about building communities and creating a better future for all. And if you look at this, here's what's cool is, we're doing this in Snoop Dogg's voice. So it's got, we've got all the apostrophes in there. So we're like selling houses, not selling houses. We're talking, we're building. And so it has, if you kind of step back and you read this and you can hear Snoop's voice inside of this mission statement, it's so cool what it can do. And we're like, well, okay, we've now got our mission statement. We've got our logo. We've got all our social stuff. But who are we? Like, what do we stand for? So we're like, all right, let's create some core values. And once again, we want to prompt it with, think about reading these with Snoop Dogg's voice. So we're keeping it real, honesty, transparency, never cutting corners comes to serving our clients. We're staying fresh, we're constantly innovating and bringing new ideas. We're showing love, which that's very much something that Snoop Dogg would say, showing love to our people, everybody's family. We're always going above and beyond. And of course, we're giving back. We believe in giving back to the community, making a positive impact wherever we go. So ChatGPT literally wrote all of these things. And so for you, if you're trying to do something simple, just to get started, grab your current about statement, grab your current bio, or if you don't have core values or a mission statement, go through and plug in some information, say, write me a mission statement that represents these three things. Okay, take that and make them core values. You can very simply, come up with this stuff. And the nice part is, I mentioned earlier, ChatGPT will get you 80% there. If you don't love every single bit about it, you can now then go edit, and that's one of the things that we're going to continue to talk about, or I'm going to continue to talk about is, when this stuff comes out, you can always go, and I will, this is another kind of, fact of life. It's a lot easier to edit something than create. If I sat everyone on this call down in a room and I'm like, all right, write me 4 core values. And I just gave you a blank paper, or I just gave you a screen and it's a Word document with just a cursor and nothing else. I'm guessing it would take you a little while. You'd have to do a lot of thinking. It would be pretty hard. You wouldn't know where to start. But if I give you 4 already, and all you have to do is edit them up to make them feel a little more like you, or you just need to edit them up to actually make it sound like you, that doesn't take that long. That's that last 20% that I'm talking about. So now we've got all of this stuff built out for Snoop and DOGG Realty. We're not quite done yet. We need to go through and figure out, like, all right, what kind of ads are we going to run? And AdCreative.ai is another company. And once again, you don't have to write all of these down because I will get you guys the slides, but they create some really cool logos and ads, or once the logos and stuff are built, you plug in all the information about your company and it will build out ads for you. So we said, all right, what are we going to say out to the public as we're launching this thing? And so it comes back with, your experience will be perfect. And if you notice, it's got the little dog looking out the thing. So it fits in with the DOGG real estate or house realty. And you see the logo on the top and the middle there in the top left, and you've even got the little things like, okay, how are we going to get people to go somewhere? So it's making moves. And so if you click on either of those, it'll take you to the next spot. And if the conversion score is high, which is what we're looking for, that means based on all of the things that this company has seen in regards to advertising, these are something that will get people to click and do something at a very high level. Here's a few more just based on the different places we're going to put these. So if you notice down at the bottom, it says, we have a beat on your next home. Your experience will be perfect. And then you click on making moves. And so it's just different types of ad creation. And Jasper is another company out there that does this in a really cool level, that is not ChatGPT, but it's called Jasper. And that's these are the types of things that will absolutely be able to be done through AI, where you're now not having to build all of this stuff out. If we're looking at more examples, you can go in here and you can be like, all right, where am I putting this? Is it on social media? Is this going to be on a website? Is this going to be, is it going to be some sort of a PowerPoint, kind of like what we're doing here? And it will basically build out all of these different styles for you, and it'll make it all done pretty much instantaneously, which is the super cool part. And that's where the geek in me or the nerd in me really comes out. I think about having everything for every single place, so all of the distribution all taken care of in one foul swoop. Okay, so let's jump into a few other examples just to give you some ideas of how this will work. All right, so I was sitting there and I was kind of nerding out on this at one point in time, and I was like, okay, so we were showing all the stuff with Snoop, and I was like, what would it look like? Because ChatGPT can code. I believe they're a level 3 coder for Google. ChatGPT has passed the bar already. It has passed the medical exam, so it can be a doctor. I mean, it's insane the amount of information it's learned, and it can take the questions they would throw at them, and it can come back with answers that would absolutely pass all of those things. So I said, okay, I want to create a landing page that is a custom landing page. I love the color orange because go Beavs, and put it on a custom Squarespace site where I can get somebody to fill out a form, and it will email me to get them a home value. So, and honestly, I didn't even know if this was possible. So it comes back and it says, well, Squarespace doesn't actually do this. I'm like, oh, very interesting. I didn't know that. So this was a learning experience for me. But it did say you can use a code injected feature and add custom code to your Squarespace site. So what does that look like? And I honestly have no idea. So this was, I do now, but I did not at the time. So then it comes back and it says, here's what you need to do step by step. And it goes through every single step of, here's what you click on. Then you go over here. Then you click on this. And then you need to copy this code in order to make it orange. I'm like, wow, this is getting kind of interesting. And it moved on, and it's like, okay, now you click save. And then it wrote me the even bigger. In the advanced, you have to have all of this code. So it wrote all the code for me, where all I have to do is click on that little thing in the top right, say copy code, and paste it in right where it's telling me to paste it. And so it's this step-by-step thing where even, and this is something I kind of want to like step back a little bit. If you remember before where I told you, the difference between this and what we saw before with say chatbots, this isn't giving me a choose from A, B, or C. This is, I understand the question. It can't actually do that, but let me show you a workaround for this. So that is a very different type of learning than what it would be if you were going back in the day where it was just like, are you looking for a house? Are you buying? Are you selling? Based on buying, would you like me to set you up with a search? And it was this very kind of binary A-B sort of thing. No, that's not what this is. It's giving me the code for exactly what I asked. And then it goes in and says, okay, well, you need to get your webhook, and here's the URL. And it gives you even like exactly what you need to replace with where you can go get that. So it's one of these crazy things where just my brain kind of going down this little tangent, it showed me how it can not only understand the question, but it can actually go find answers for things that wasn't even necessarily what I asked for. So if you think about this, this is 14 steps with all of the code and everything else built out for something I didn't even actually ask for. It found a workaround for something that doesn't work or does not exist. And so that's the kind of thing that I look at and I'm like, okay, this is super, super cool. And so, then it goes even, then even goes on to say, like, you'll need to set up an account, one of the mentioned services, and it even dives into like how I can then do that part. So, and other things that you're going to see is, there's this company out here called Synthesia. And what this is, so if you look at this woman here on the screen, so that's not a real person. Company is you can create AI videos where you just type in something, it will pick a person. You see on the right all of your different options for people, and it will then give you the video, and it'll actually have somebody for, and this really comes into, for those of you that don't like being on camera, you can now have this fake person, this bot, read whatever you want it to be. And so, like, think about if you're going into your business and you're wanting to, give people step-by-steps on where you're at in the process and what's next. So let's say, okay, we're going into the inspection period. Just so you know, there's going to be somewhere between 7 and 10 days. Here are the things we're looking for. Next, after that, we are going to be negotiating repairs. And you can have all of these kind of stock explainer videos completely built out using text that you create or ChatGPT creates. Let's say I go into ChatGPT and I type in, what are the 10 steps of buying a house? I could take each one of those and then turn it into a video instead of just putting that text out there. And so that's one of the kind of cool things that, companies like this will do. And then we even get into, okay, now you're getting big companies like GM is looking at using something like ChatGPT to put into their cars. And so, you think about it, at least I don't know about you, is CarPlay is cool at times and it is super annoying at times when you're trying to get directions or you're trying to text back and forth already, or you're just trying to get it to work. And I also don't know how many of you have an iPhone, but the other thing it'll do is all of a sudden you'll use an app and then U2, the whole album of U2 was pushed onto your phone. So then instead of being on the radio station you were on or the podcast you were on, it magically sends you back to a bad U2 song of Songs of Innocence or something along those lines. So it just always seems to screw up. But imagine if you could get into your car and be like, okay, ChatGPT, we are going to my friend Johnny's house. I need to stop by the gas station and get some fuel. I need to be there by 10:30. What's the fastest, quickest route? It routes it all up. It gives me navigation all the way through. And now we've got this smart car where I can even be like, turn my blinkers on left. I mean, I'm not going to do that, but it's crazy how, all of this is working out. Data security of ChatGPT, do you have control over the information? So that's a great question. No, that's one of the things I didn't really touch on in the scary. Sorry, I'm just reading something out of the chat. Security is something, and who owns this is going to be something that comes out. And those are some of the parameters they're wanting to get, because basically every time you type in a prompt or every time it finds an answer, that is now filed in its little machine brain, and you can't delete that. That is now part of its brain that it's now learned, and it's going to store that. So security and privacy are a couple of things that they're currently there. I mean, their canned answer is they spent 6 months setting all this stuff up. You're super secure, you're super private, blah, 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 blah. They don't have, at least in my mindset, they don't have it all figured out yet. So that is going to be something that is going to continue to be an issue. And especially in our current world where security and privacy are such a big thing. But yeah, there's going to be some really interesting advances when not only are cars able to do the things you ask, but it understands the question and then actually comes back with an answer that's useful. I mean, even now, like I'll sit there and push the button and I'll try to get it to call somebody and it doesn't recognize my voice or doesn't know what I'm asking for. I mean, there's a lot of things that are just now getting started that are now going to be, moving forward. So I do see another question that's coming in because I just looked down at this. Scams and data collection. Yes, I mean, scams are the thing I think that we're most worried about, is all of the different ways that people are going to be able to use this to either write code, have interactions with people. You know, you think about the voice size, like, so we talk about scalability in your business. Imagine if some really smart hacker person out there can set up a whole bunch of bots and be emailing and calling and, you know, writing and basically interacting with thousands of people at once instead of one at a time. You know, the scalability of what scammers can do is absolutely something that's going to have to be figured out. And so, you know, they're working on that. And as I mentioned, you've got the good guys out there fighting the bad guys, but that's something that's going to be an issue for a little while, and we're going to have to be diligent with it and see how it all plays out. So in summary, if we're kind of diving into this stuff, you know, there are so many things that you can use while you're using this in your business. And so, you know, I'm not going to make you read all these. I'm not going to dive into all of them, but you can go through when they're having them do an output. So if you're writing an email or a newsletter or something like that, you know, you can say, I want it in a conversational tone. I want it humorous. I want it informative. I want it professional. So, you know, if you're having it write the description for your listing, say how you want it. Be like, I want this to sound, I want it to use a luxury tone. I want it to sound like a first-time home buyer tone. I want it to sound, you know, very digestible. Like there's different things you can do with that. It's, you know, I want to use keywords to make it rank inside of Google or YouTube. You know, with marketing, it's, I want you to write the description for this YouTube video that is X, Y, and Z. I want it to be my about. Like if you're trying to write copy for your website, or you're trying to write copy for a newsletter, or you're trying to just get emails out, you know, this will at least get you 80% of the way with that stuff. You know, and I can tell you, I've been on projects many a time in regards to creating websites. And the number one thing that stalls them out or makes them take a very long time is coming up with the content and the copy. If you can have at least a baseline for every page inside of about 10 minutes, that will literally save you months on a website build. You know, then you go through and edit it up and it will get completely, you know, it can make it yours, but it can be completely done inside of weeks versus months and months and months. You know, for your sphere, it can write emails, it can write subject lines, it can say, you know, this is a subject line that will convert at a higher level. We actually have Brett Hatch here at our company, he's one of our IT guys. He takes emails that he's getting ready to send out to either groups or even to clients and says, hey, clean this up, make sure it's written in a professional tone. And it will take what he wrote and it will change the verbiage. It'll make sure that it's grammatically correct. It'll make sure that there aren't spelling errors and things like that. So there's all different ways that can be done with that. You know, clearly inside of search, you know, creating your bios, you can say, you know, create me an about or a bio for my Zillow profile, for my Google profile, for my LinkedIn profile, for my YouTube channel. Each one of those can be different based on the channel that you're then going to. You know, and then of course, social, it's, you know, create a post that is going to be at a high converting level that will get people's attention and make them want to click on this link that goes to this place talking about this house or this thing or this event, you know. And then, you know, at the end of the day, I actually was looking at it was a different program, but basically this other program was saying, okay, you know, we're going to be an AI company that is your assistant. So let's say you want to work from 8 to 5 or 8 to 6. We will answer every other question at all other times, 24 hours a day for you. And so it's basically a chat bot that can go through and it can pick up the slack. Now it can't give legal advice, or it'd have to put a disclaimer on that. You know, clearly there's going to be some things that you have to worry about in regards to making sure that it doesn't step over the line. But anything general, sending general openly available information about properties, it can do all that for you while you're out doing whatever it is you want to do to either recreate, relax, or just kind of enjoy your time. You know, so it's something that can take all of that off your plate. And these are just kind of the ways that we're really seeing it at this point in time being utilized inside of the real estate space. Now, if you're wanting copywriting to be done, you know, obviously ChatGPT is at the forefront, but there are several of these others. You know, you have Jasper, like I mentioned before, that is some really cool content for social and ads and blogs and emails and things like that. You know, there's presentation AI. So if you're having to build out your listing presentation or your buyer presentation, sales, if you're wanting to just communicate at a higher level, you know, we've got one, it's Udly. There's the ad creative AI that I showed you earlier, logo creation, you know, art and image. There's one called Midjourney that I really like for art and images, where it'll create completely custom artwork based on what you prompt it to do. And then of course we get into video creation, which, you know, right now all the rage in vid or in marketing is short form video. So imagine if you could just create all of this video content without having to sit behind a camera, and especially if you're uncomfortable doing so, and you're letting this AI generate super cool, super informative content that are going to be used for you. So just had a question come through. Are these programs free or avail, or are they cost? A lot of these do cost money. So you'd have to figure out the ones that you're going to use. There are some free ones, or there's, the freemium model. You get a scaled down version for free, but if you want the cool, bells and whistles, then you're going to need to pay. A lot of them aren't expensive. They're usually somewhere between like $9 and $20 a month. But if you pick up all of these, then that will become a decent sized bill. For me, I've even started paying for the ChatGPT subscription that came out. It makes it to where you can basically log in every time. You never get the, for lack of a better term, too many users screen that pops up. You also get GPT-4, so you get a higher level of learning, and it's smarter with your questions and things like that. So a lot of them do have a free or a trial or something like that, but then they will end up costing money. So there is going to be a cost to all of this stuff.
And then there's questions on security, and if they can have availability to delete or anything of this. Can you just kind of cover that briefly, please?
Of course. Yeah. So the short answer is, and I touched on this a tiny bit earlier, you can't, no, you can't, with most of these things, you're not, I mean, you can delete your chat from the thing, but you're not going to be able to delete this stuff. Once it goes into the brain, and I call it the brain because it's just an easier way for me to actually kind of like figure out what it is. It's in there. So it understands what the prompts are. It understands what information it brought back to you. And that's how it learns. So it's going to continue to learn based on all of this stuff. And so security is going to be something that we're going to have to worry about. At this point in time, they claim to be super secure. They claim to kind of have all of this stuff figured out, for lack of a better term. But we'll kind of have to see. I mean, it's so new and it's moving so quickly. Yeah. And there's always bad actors out there that are going to be looking for ways to hack into things. They're going to be looking for ways to get information. And so it's going to be interesting how it all plays out. But security and the data that it collects is going to be something that we're going to have to figure out. And part of that open letter I spoke to earlier was basically saying, hey, part of the reason we need to pause this is we need to come up with a set of rules for things like privacy and security, because if we don't, government needs to get involved and they need to create the rules for this technology. And so that's where we really dive into this stuff, is we got to figure out who makes the rules. And right now it's ChatGPT and it is Google Bard, and those are the two biggest, but there's thousands of them popping up. So we're going to have to see where that goes. And when I mentioned there's thousands, Futurepedia is what we actually look at. This is basically a site, and this is free, that will tell you about all the tools that were out there. So if you're like, I need something to create an image, or I need something to write copy, or I need something to develop an app, or I need something to create a landing page, this site here is what we watch, because it's trying to figure out everything that is out there in the world of AI. So, this is kind of a way to keep up with everything. And it's going to be hard, at least right now, it's moving so fast, it's going to be hard to keep up. So I would find ways, like if I were to give one piece of advice, dip your toe in the water, start with ChatGPT, have it write some listing descriptions, have it edit some emails, have it write, you can even go in there and be like, write me a, 10-point plan of, how to keep in touch with my clients for the next 30 days and see what it comes up with. And that's kind of the way to just get started with. Dip your toe in the water, then feel free to go down the rabbit hole, because I will tell you, it is one of those things that becomes really easy to get sucked into the vortex. And next thing you know, you're a lot further along than you thought you'd be, just because you were playing with it.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and just say thank you, and I'm going to throw this up because I want to be respectful of people's time, but I'm happy to hang on and answer more questions if you do have them.
Okay, great. Thank you, Aaron. This was a really informative presentation. I've learned a lot, and I know everybody else has too. And just as a reminder to everyone, C will be processed in the next 2 weeks, and you'll receive an email with the instructions to access it. So have a great day. And if you want to stay on for a few minutes and ask Aaron any questions, please do. And ask them in the chat box.
And I did see one that just came through, like at what level, can this write? And so the short version is you can tell it whatever level you want it to write. So, for example, you're saying, I want this to be written at a master's degree college level, or I want this to be written as a PhD level, and it will pull those out. If you're wanting it to rewrite something, yes, you talked about, I believe it was the preamble for the realtors or
Code of
association
ethics.
realtors, the code of ethics. You could throw that in there. You could say, here's the current code of ethics. I want this to be rewritten for 2023 social standards at a PhD level, and it would be able to spit that out. Now, I'm not saying it would be perfect, because I as I mentioned before, it may not know everything that you know, but it is something where it will spit something out, and then as a group, the realtor body would have to go through and make the edits or make sure that it was what you wanted it to be. And so, but it can go as high as you want. Now, it doesn't, because it is a computer, it doesn't work quite as well in the artistic space yet either. So like, if you're trying to get it to ideate new things that have never existed, we're not seeing as much of that, but it is getting on the edge of that. So it's kind of fascinating. I do see where the slides are. I will get the slides over to OAR and they will get them out to everyone. So I will make sure that you get those in the next, I'll send them out here later today. I'll get them uploaded and I'll get them over. And then I'm not going to speak for you guys over at OAR, but I'm sure they'll get them out to you ASAP.
They will. And
Thank
Aaron,
you,
just thank you
Aaron.
again. We appreciate your offering today. I really believe that this was very informative. I don't know, how many people did we have online, Erica?
We had up to 70 people online. And so, yes, we will be sending out those slide decks to everyone after. And we are now Oregon Realtors. We are not OAR anymore.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. We just say every time anybody gets it wrong and calls us OAR now, it's $5 to the Home Foundation. Too easy.
Yes, I owe you.
Great. Good job, Aaron. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you so much,
very
Aaron.
much. And I'll get you guys out. I'll get everyone out on the hour. So hope everyone has a great day.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and end this webinar for everyone. Thank you. Katie, you want to hit end for me?